Hey, what's going on, Los Angeles? Welcome to the Rams Skinny here on the LAFB network. We are Los Angeles Sports, and we are your destination for Rams football content. It is the off season for the Rams. Super Bowl is a little over a week. What are we at? 10 days away or so from the big game. Once the Rams were out, I almost forgot that there was even still football being played. Like once the Rams were done, the Chargers lost the previous week. College football is officially done. I was like, oh, I forgot there's still like games to be played. So, and it's, of course, it's like the Eagles Chiefs again. But anyway, we talked about that last episode. So, but quickly, since I'm on the subject, if you want to bet on the big game, we have the perfect partner for you. BetOnline.ag is where you can do all your Super Bowl wagering, all the best money lines and spreads for that game, but also all the prop bets, which I think 90% of people out there enjoy doing. They aren't the true degenerate gamblers. They like to just, have some fun on the Super Bowl and bet what the color of the Gatorade, which I think I saw the favorite right now is, did I see purple? I don't know. I'll look in a minute, but I don't even know how they decide that. They just choose one, I guess, that is the favorite, but all of that can be done at betonline.ag, where the game starts. Tell them the guys at the LAFB network sent you. But we're talking Rams today. We're talking linebackers as we kind of do our sequence of free agency talk here leading up to March. We have a whole month to kind of break down every position of what the Rams could go after. Big news first, though, which I'll get to. I'll tease that. First and foremost, Skinny T, how are you, my friend? Good seeing you.
I got water back, so I'm in a whole different world now.
Ooh,
so
you look fresh.
That's fantastic. Oh, good. Yeah, I feel fresh, feel good. Yeah. Other than that, it's end of January. What the heck?
Yeah.
I mean, time's flying already. 2025 is just speeding right along.
Yeah.
But I can't complain, man. I got a great job, doing what I love. It's fantastic, and I'm I don't say this enough. But I'm thankful for all you guys that are listening, all you people, all you fantastic people out there that are listening to this. Appreciate you following. We're continuing to grow. And man, I can't thank you enough for your support, your viewership. So thank you guys very much.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Ramley, for everything. I'm glad you kind of brought that up. And I never knew her personally on Twitter. She was a big kind of part of the Ramley on Twitter. I could find her handle, but her name is D. I don't know if you even saw this, Skinny, but member of the Ramley just passed away. I don't know the happenings or why, but big part of the family on Twitter and very well known and beloved by a lot of people out there. So I'm sure someone listening knows who I'm talking about and has heard of her, or I'll try to find her handle, but heard of her or engaged or interact with her. I think I've had a few engagements and always very pleasant. So just, very sad to hear. And again, I don't know the whole story of what transpired, but sad to hear. Well, prayers and thoughts for her family and everyone that she touched. So, we are a Ramley, right? That's what we like to call ourselves, the Ramley. And so when you lose one, it's a sad day. So just wanted to at least say that thoughts and prayers to her family and everyone that she had impacted. So, but yeah, aside from that, very blessed and everything is good here. And yeah, you look great. You do look fresh. I can tell the water's been tapped on. It's a cold, chilly Angelino day out here. So it's good to have some hot water, I presume.
Yeah, absolutely. I took probably the longest shower I've taken in my whole life that day. Just being appreciative of having the modern conveyances. When the fire in Eaton Canyon was happening, we lost our power.
Yeah.
So I've gotten a back-to-back experience of what it's like. Here's a poll question: would you rather be without electricity or water for 2 days?
I mean, there's so many conveniences in our life that are just so common day use that you don't realize how not just vital, but how like convenient they are until they're gone. Like hot water, like I am ask anyone that knows me, like I take long hot showers. Like I love my hot water. I let it run for a little bit to get steamy in the room first. So it's nice and warm. Like if I didn't have hot water, obviously, you'd learn to live and adapt, but that's a convenience that I would certainly miss is taking cold showers. Ugh, brutal.
Yeah, if you've ever had to heat up water to give yourself a sponge bath, Ugh.
Yeah.
It's a tough one. But I'm addicted to the internet, so for work and for pleasure. So it's a toss up.
There's a lot of things for sure. So speaking of really quick, since we are the end of the month, since you brought it up, how are your resolutions doing 30 days in?
I'm glad you asked. Running fantastically. I've run 17 of the last 18 days.
Savage. Look at you.
Pretty good on the month as well. I took 4 days off because of the smoke in the air.
Yeah.
And then a couple of days right after the new year, I'll call it recovering.
Yeah. Smart.
Yeah. But the reading one, that one's been up and down. I've hit it here and there.
Yeah. Well, good. 17, 18 days in a row. That's fantastic for running. So, I will say mine has been less consistent than you, but at least I'm still doing it. So I'm happy that doing it. So I am running. I ran today, trying to get back in the clock of that. I am reading. I have this leadership book I'm reading that I've started that I'm way behind. I'm not going to finish the one book a month, but at least I am reading. And I've been reading my Bible most days. So what's funny about, I have this like 1 year Bible, which I'm sure you've had one or heard of one or many out there where it splits it up. No, there's the thumbs up thing. Yeah. I hate that thing. It splits it up into like daily reads that make it over 365 days. So you can read the whole Bible in 1 year.
Yep.
So what's funny about that is you can definitely tell if you fall behind. Like I'm like, oh, I'm on January 12th still. And here we are at the end of the month. So, haven't done it every day, but hey, I'm doing it. So I think that's all you can ask for resolutions, right? At least like you're still attempting it going into February. I think that's the positive, but you're knocking out of the park. It sounds like.
Well, I used to be on the running train. So it's just, it's getting back to that muscle memory and getting my strength back up has really been it. So, but I got to make time for reading. It's always been something that's super important to me. So I'll get back to it.
Well, yeah. We need to start a book club or something.
I've
always wanted to be in a book club, but anyway, let's get to Rams talk. Big news first. Matthew Stafford yesterday, well, not necessarily him, but Ian Rappaport reporting that Matthew Stafford does plan to play in 2025. All indications is that will be with the Rams. As we have said many times, Ian Rappaport also said this, and many others concurred that it will be on a new deal. Highly unlikely that his current contract, the way it's constructed, will be what he begins playing in 2025. As we've said many times, that cap number at $49 million probably needs to go down. His guaranteed money of only $4 million, he probably wants to go up. So we're looking at, I think this year they were able to get a deal done of like a $40 million fully guaranteed for this season. I'm sure we're looking at something in the realm of that. So quickly, we don't need to talk. We talked a lot about it the last 2 weeks, but just your thoughts on this, hopefully just being the end of that. Now they can do contract stuff in the offseason, but as of now, Matthew Stafford is the quarterback for the Rams in 25.
Yeah, McVay wanted an answer as soon as possible, and it seems like one has come. So I've always been in the position that Matthew Stafford was going to be a Ram in 2025 as well. Contract, whatever. Now the big question is the rest of the offense. We're looking at a lot of questions on the offensive line, which we'll get to in our offensive line free agency talk. Cooper Kupp, that's another big question mark.
Yep.
And then Tyler Higbee as well. I think there's going to be talks around his contract this year, whether he's going to be with the team or not as well, I think is in play. But this is the number one position in all of football. You have to have a quarterback to compete. So this opens up again the conversation that we've had probably for the last 2 years is what's the window? Matthew Stafford is the window. This is what they're competing in. So I think everything is framed in that. How do we protect Matthew Stafford with a better offensive line? How do we get him the right weapons? How do we change the offense to suit where Stafford is currently in his career? And I think those are all really interesting questions, and glad to have him back.
Yeah, no, it's certainly, and I think this allows them to, as we've talked about extensively for, like you said, 2 years, allows them to actually plan now for the future, and whether that's drafting a quarterback at some point. We'll get to our QB talk, but I love Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss, former USC Trojan here in LA, a guy that's probably going to rise up draft boards as the process continues to go. But it'll allow them now, hopefully, I mean, we've been saying it they should have done it a while ago, but to go get that quarterback of the future, knowing that Stafford truly now is on a ticking clock. This might be it. This 2025 season might be it. Maybe you get 26 out of it. But either way, you want to plan ahead so that you can have a seamless transition, because, it's not often that you get that transition, but if you can plan for it, like the Packers have done so well over the construct of 30 plus years, some other teams have done it too. Others lose your quarterback and they're down and out for 5 years, and the Rams don't want to be like that. So it's big news that they have some clarity now. Now we'll see what the contract looks like, but yeah, it seems like for sure Stafford will be the leading man, as he should be, as we all want him to be. For this team, and then now they can plan for the future. So we'll talk more QBs later. Today we're talking linebackers. Skinny, we teased it. We were going to combine it on their last show when we did running backs, but we're talking Kyren Williams for so long we ran out of time. So linebacker is an interesting position when you think about how the Rams roster construction works, in the sense of, do they really value the position? And I think that's a question we can get into. I'll start with this. As of going into free agency, both Christian Rozeboom, or I should say not just both, all three, Christian Rozeboom, Jake Hummel, and Troy Reeder will all be free agents. Hummel being a restricted free agent, so they can get him back a little easier. Omar Speights, your undrafted free agent, is your only viable linebacker on the roster. You have Tony Fields and Elias Neal, if anyone's even heard of those guys. And then Jalen McCullough, who I think played great as a safety, obviously, can be that hybrid in a pinch, but I wouldn't definitely want to go into 25 with him as my starting linebacker. I know that'll bring flashbacks of Mark Barron back for all the old school Rams fans, but that's not what you want to do going in. So they're going to have to address the backer position, whether it's re-signing these guys and rolling it back with Rozeboom and Speights. I certainly would expect them to maybe use a draft pick for a linebacker in later rounds, but there's some free agents to be had. So before we get into free agents that we could see them pursuing, Skinny, let me just ask you straight up, do you think this team values the linebacker position, or do they treat it kind of like the running back position?
My initial answer is to say no, just because of what they've rolled into year after year after year. But you go back to 2022, they brought in Bobby Wagner.
Yeah.
So there's not a complete, they're not dismissing it completely.
Mm-hmm.
Now that year didn't go according to plan to anything. It wasn't Bobby Wagner's fault, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But so I think, for those people that just assume that they don't care, this team is continuing to evolve, and especially on the defensive side. You look at that, the front four specifically, nailed. We're good.
Yep.
They need to add a big body in there. But then you start working backward and you say, where are kind of the areas of this very, very cheap defense that they can improve on? Linebacker is your next best step. You got Darius Williams locked down for a couple more years. You got Quentin Lake for another year. You got Cam Kinchins for a year, or Cam Curl for another couple of years, I think. And then Cam Kinchins as well. So they've got a pretty good, back end as well. Kind of, I'd like to, we'll get to cornerbacks eventually. I'd like to see another cornerback in there. But this is the position where it seems like, you just go watch Saquon Barkley and Christian Rozeboom and even Omar Speights. Omar Speights is a nice surprise, but this is the weak underbelly for the Rams. This is a place that they can improve vastly their defense. So I could see them investing this year, just to have a complete. They could compete for one of the best defenses in the league, in my opinion, if they add that cornerback and a linebacker.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you bring up or I guess I asked you in the beginning, what do they value linebacker position? I think you said it great. I think they do. They've just either bailed on that commitment early, or kind of figured out that they needed to allocate money to other, positions of need. And so it's basically kind of hurt that linebacker room. We talked, obviously, we talked about it last episode, but the fact that Ernest Jones was kind of seen as this linebacker of the future to kind of be in the face of this defensive franchise. And then obviously they trade him away, and never really has fully come out why, but the reports indications were that they were just far away on what a contract looked like. Ernest Jones obviously probably thought he was worth more, and the Rams did not agree with that number. So they figured they'd trade him at something instead of just letting him walk when free agency hit. But that being said, there's no doubt this position needs to be upgraded. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Yeah, you got a nice surprise in Omar Speights. I thought Christian Rosebroom, for who he is and what he gives you, played well. It wasn't like he was like awful. But when you look at the rushing defensive woes of this team, it's because of that second level. I mean, the running game, obviously the defensive line is the first line of defense, but that second level is a huge factor in run defense, and it's a major reason why the Rams were so porous at it. Even in their good stretch of run at the end of the season, a lot of teams then weren't like running a lot. I mean, we talked about the Saints game, right? When Alvin Kamara and the Saints just like stopped running in the second half. Like he was running all over them in that first half and then just stopped. And other teams kind of did the same thing. So there's no doubt they have to upgrade this position. And you're going to have to allocate some money to it. And I think you can go get one guy out there to run. I think Omar Speights, he's under contract as a UDFA. I think he showed enough that he's run it back with him, but you need someone alongside him that probably gives you a higher baseline than Christian Rosebroom. Like having those two guys as your two, that's where the trouble will at. You could have one of those guys, but you also need one guy kind of running the show that can do a little bit more and give you a little bit more. So any guys right now, well, let me ask you this first. Do they bring back any of those three, Hummel, Roseboom, or Reeder? Or you think they kind of full reset, have Speights, go get a big guy, and then potentially draft a guy as well?
Yeah, I could see him bringing all three of those back, if not one of them. I mean, I think they believe in those guys. They brought Troy Reeder back already. Christian Roseboom is a good athlete, great special teamers, in my opinion. So I think that's definitely on the table. But I think, looking at it from an improvement standpoint, I think you gotta bring in a new body, and I think they will draft. They drafted Ernest Jones in the third round. That's a fairly high investment. So I think that's on the table as well, and it's a good linebacker class as well.
Yeah. So looking at the free agents, is there any names that you're saying, you know what, that's someone I would love to see the Rams go out and get?
Yeah, I mean, this one's been talked about a bit, but I mean, I'm thinking about it in a 3-tier system. So I'm going to throw out my top end one here. Dre Greenlaw.
Yep.
Now, this is a guy that Rams fans have hated, but they hated him because he was annoying and he was pesky and he was frisky and fierce and kind of dirty, but a bit of a big hitter, and good in coverage. This guy's super athletic, played for the 49ers. Again, that's probably why they hate him the most. But this is an opportunity for him to be the number one guy. He's always been behind Fred Warner, and this is a great opportunity for him to prove what he's worth as the number one guy. So I think that's definitely my top option.
Yeah, 100%. We actually just put an article up just a few hours ago about PFF agrees with you. And they also said that his best landing spot is with the Rams for a lot of those same reasons, that he would be the number one guy in LA. Obviously snake bitten with injuries last year, but in 23, as the number two to the great Fred Warner, finished with 120 tackles and a sack and a half. So, and that's him being the number two guy. So it shows how talented he is. He is, let's see, I have it in front of me. Age, he's only 28 right now. So you figure you can get one like good contract out of him as long as he's healthy. And then, yeah. And then if you were able to re-sign Roseboom, like why not have the likes of Greenlaw with Roseboom and Speights in kind of a rotation? I think you're in a good pairing there. So it'd be interesting because he is by far like probably the most hated player by Rams fans of all players out there. But you make your first big play in horns, fans will forget that probably pretty quick.
Yeah, it's like Deebo Samuel. If Deebo Samuel was a Ram, people would just be going crazy for him because those are the guys that like you got to have on your team. Those kind of pesky, annoying guys that just make plays, and that's exactly what they need at the position. He's going to get a lot of money, though. I don't think people are deterred by the injury stuff. He played well when he was in there this year towards the end of the year. So, there is a prospect. Let me describe him to you. He's only 26 years old, coming off of a rookie contract. Last year, he played almost 90% of the snaps. His name, Ernest Jones. Is there a union at all? Is that possible at all? Well, that they would put their tail between their legs and admit they made a mistake and bring back EJ.
I mean, I think it would have to be him putting his tail between his legs and admitting a mistake. I mean, what's interesting with him, and I still that I don't want to say the trade mystified me, but I still think it wasn't a great trade. But what's interesting is, he gets traded to the Titans, and then the Titans go and trade him to the Seahawks. And there's reports now that the Seahawks and him are like way far off on contract negotiations, and he's probably going to hit free agency. So there clearly is a misconception there with what his agent thinks he's going to get versus what teams, and it's not just the Rams now, are going to give him. So it seems like it'd have to be him saying like, all right, I want to be with the Rams. Like, it was weird getting traded twice in the same year from this team, but I'd love to go back. And I think the Rams would welcome him back if he came back for the right price. I mean, I'd love to see that. It's just funny to think like he was here all along. But another name I'll throw at you. Or do you have anything else to say on Jones? Do you think there's any possibility that even happens?
I mean, I'm going to say no, but that's just opens the door. We are the most influential Rams podcast for sure. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I know Les Snead just likes to piss us off. So he's just going to do the opposite. So I'm going to say no.
There you go. Great. There you go. Opposite day. I think that, in my opinion, the dream scenario for me as a backer, but I think this guy's going to for sure get paid. 25 years old, on his rookie contract. He's playing in the Super Bowl next week. And that's Nick Bolton for the Chiefs. I think he would be a great addition. Super talented guy that has turned into one of the better backers in the league and is a huge part of that Chiefs defense. But he's probably, this is a pretty good free agent class, honestly, in linebackers in reality. But he'll probably be one of the upper echelon. You mentioned Greenlaw obviously being one of those. But Nick Bolton doesn't have the injury history and is 2 years younger, so he could even be potentially a higher paid one. And then Ernest Jones too in that same echelon. So, but I think Bolton, just with the winning pedigree, where he comes from, the style of defense they play with Steve Spagnuolo, I think he'd be a great fit. He'd be a great addition to run that defense. Could potentially be the green dot if they wanted to go back to a backer. But based on his rate of play, 87% of snaps. He's probably going to be, and I don't know if you agree or not, but he's probably going to be one of the higher paid, maybe top 5 paid of this linebacker free agency class.
Yeah, but I think, the way the Chiefs operate, I think he's probably going to hit the open market.
Yeah.
I think a lot of teams are going to be interested in him. And just from a run defense standpoint, that's the kind of guy the Rams absolutely need and are super rare right now.
Yeah.
It's, that run defense gap filler guy is pretty rare. So I absolutely love that one. That's a big investment. He and Dre Greenlaw are both going to be huge draws, I think. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see who, where, and what offer him the big contracts. Because, it's not just the Rams that undervalue linebackers. It's
kind of
the whole league, the league right now. Yeah. But they're coming back because of the run defense, like I was saying. And just to counterbalance myself in terms of that, another young guy played for the Jets, first year as a starter due to injury, really burst onto the scene. Jamian Sherwood. He's not a big guy, kind of a safety linebacker hybrid, like you were saying with other guys. But wow, he just really came on, and I think he might just fly under the radar because of the big class, draft class, and these kind of either higher end names. He might be a guy that's hanging around towards the end of March that has yet to be signed. So I think that's a guy that I'd keep an eye out for as well.
Yeah, it's a good one. He'd be an interesting one that these guys I don't think fly under the radar. Obviously, there's so many scouts and pro player personnel guys in the league, but a guy that is a lesser known wow guy that kind of, like you said, burst onto the scene this year. So could maybe fly under in terms of contract negotiations. So that'd be an interesting one to see. A few more names I'll throw out. I think Willie Gay Jr. I think also previously with the Chiefs and now with the Saints. Still only 27 years old. A guy that didn't play a ton of snaps this year, but has that pedigree from the past, and the Rams love reclamation projects. You never know. And speaking of reclamation projects, this guy's career, I don't understand how it never really got off. I think, one, he was drafted, and he was kind of that tweener What you just mentioned, that tweener kind of safety linebacker hybrid. He went to an organization that was, having coaching changes. Who are you going to guess?
Isaiah Simmons.
Yes, sir. Isaiah Simmons, like former seventh overall pick. I think he was drafted right after Justin Herbert was in that draft class. And coming out of Clemson was just seen as this guy that could do it all on defense. I mean, had a great college career, never panned out in Arizona, now went to the Giants, and the Giants they're just a mess. So you can't totally blame him, but only played like 17% of the snaps. So they could probably, if you're going for a bargain guy with high upside, like there's your bargain guy right there. Cause they can probably get him for cheap. Not saying it's going to work out. He hasn't shown anything in the NFL that he has, but in terms of just low risk, high reward, like if you want a reclamation project, like to me, that's the one. Go get him for cheap. Let him get with Chris Shula, who was, obviously the D coordinator, but been a linebacker coach for a few years with the Rams, and see what you can do with them. That could be a fun one.
Yeah, I remember writing that the Rams should trade up to go get him. Now I'll say his struggles are, probably on him for sure. But he's the future of the linebacking position. And the organizations he's been with, I wouldn't say have been the most forward-looking organizations in terms of their defenses. Or he was with Vance Joseph in Arizona, and was it Wink Martindale in with the Giants, their D coordinator?
He was there last year. And I think he's been there for 2 years now.
He's not there right now. He's in college.
Oh no, I mean Simmons has been there 2 years now. This year, I can't even remember who their D coordinator was this year, but
who cares? Doesn't matter. But like with an organization like the Rams that see things in the forward looking, and just the versatility, and I think you look to a guy like Derwin James, even where I think Simmons could play the slot. I think he could play safety. So that would alleviate a lot of pressure
right there.
What's that?
That's a great comp. Not that he's as good as Derwin James, but that style of play, great comp. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that would take a lot of pressure off of guys like Byron Young and Jared Verse in terms of having to drop into coverage a lot. So, kind of a pipe dream on that one, but I've wanted that guy to get the right shot, and I think the Rams would be a good place for him.
And you get it for cheap, so can't do that. So, all right, well, let's wrap up with this. Do you have one more name, and I'll give one more, and then we can kind of end our linebacker talk, because it's a position the Rams absolutely have to address. We'll talk draft prospects at a later time, but I think they'll for sure, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I mean that was the end of my.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that was the end of my list. I don't have anybody else.
So the last name I'll throw out, as much as I dislike the Raiders, I loved watching this guy play, and that's Robert Spillane. So he's a little older, 30, so he'll probably be 31 before the season starts, but played 98.2% of the snaps. And he's like your true old school linebacker, just plays with his hair on fire, kind of that mean style, kind of like some of Drake Greenlaw, but you'd be able to get for a little bit cheaper because of his age and kind of the name recognition. But Robert Spillane, I think, would be a really fun one to bring in as a guy that can definitely help in your run defense, as that's number one. Like, as much as I would love Isaiah Simmons, and I think it'd be worth taking a flyer on him, I don't know if he would actually improve your run defense. He gives you some versatility with what he can do with everything you just said, but is he going to be a true run stuffing linebacker? Probably not. He's more your side to sideline. He can do things like cover, like instead of having Christian Roseboom cover Travis Kelce or those tight ends, you could have a guy like Isaiah Simmons do it, which would be much better. But a guy like Robert Spillane would actually help your run defense, which is your biggest deficiency. So that's the last name I'll throw out there.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of guys that are in the late 20s even on this defense. So getting somebody in there that has lots of experience, is a leader on his team, on his defense, that's a huge asset too. Totally.
So gonna be fascinating to see. I'm excited to see what they do, but it's a position that I think they definitely will add. So let us know what you guys think. Comment below if you're on YouTube, Rams, LAFB, any backers you want, if you want them just to run it back with who they had and re-sign, if you want them to go heavy in the draft. But I think they definitely will sign at least one backer. So let us know who you guys want. On Twitter, Ryan Dyer at LAFB, RL Anderson LAFB, or LAFB Network. And anywhere you get your podcast, just search Ram Skinny, and everything, as always, can be found at LAFBnetwork.com. Thank you all for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. Oh, last thing I got to mention, Underdog Fantasy. new partner. Make sure you're going to Underdog Fantasy. It's so much fun. Pick them 2 through, I think they added up to 8 now you can play with. Any game. They have NBA, NHL, baseball, obviously football, so you can do it for the Super Bowl. And you just kind of pick over under for all of these players you want, whether it's touchdown passes, receptions, whatever it may be. And you can win money that way. Super easy. Use the promo code LAFB, or just click the link in the description wherever you are watching or listening, and you're going to get you could get a $1,000 welcome bonus and 1 free pick. Free money there. LAFB is the promo code, link below. Underdog Fantasy. Tell them the guys over at the LAFB Network sent you. So make sure to check that out. Thank you all, as always, Ramley, for hanging out with us. Everyone have a great weekend. We'll talk to you all on Monday as we continue this free agency series that we're doing throughout the offseason. Be well.